We are one game in of the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade that went down over a week ago. And Anthony Davis in his debut was phenomenal. He was out there proving a point, saying that the Mavericks got a top 10 player. 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks, 10 of 18 from the field. But what happened? I left adductor strain. Again, it was a non contact injury. And it's unfortunate because I kept trying to tell you guys this trade is going to be a disaster for the Dallas Mavericks. Sure, it might look good at first, but he's expected to miss multiple weeks. And here's the problem with that. You don't build chemistry with Kyrie and AD. And who knows where Dallas will end up in the Western Conference. Hopefully, they can maintain a top 6 position or get close to that without Anthony Davis' services. And when he does come back, can he sustain this level of productivity? Because, there's arguments out there that said, like, well, he's been a number one option before. Let's not forget how good Anthony Davis is. No doubt, he's really good. But we know he's had a history of injuries. And I know over the past year, he's been healthier than ever before, and that's great. But if we're looking at the Western Conference right now, just evaluating the landscape of everything going on, you got to deal with OKC right now. You got to deal with the Denver Nuggets. You got to deal with the Houston Rockets. I know they just beat Houston. Houston's in a major slump, but they're a young basketball team. And I expect them to get better. And I trust Ime Udoka. He is a fantastic coach. Then you got to deal with Luka and LeBron. They make their debut tonight. And then on top of that, you have to hope that somehow the Spurs don't get better going forward. They have Fox and Wemby. We know San Antonio is going to rise up in the Western Conference. It might not happen this year, but they've got a bevy of draft capital, and they can still improve the roster. Then you look at OKC. We know the treasure of draft picks that they have. You look at the Rockets. They can make another move, improve their roster. And then, of course, you're competing with the LA market. And we're going to act like the Lakers are not going to attract another superstar to play alongside Luka Doncic. I get LeBron's there, but he probably has another 2 years left. Maybe he'll retire by next season. So the Mavericks are already facing an uphill battle. And this is just sad stuff because I tried to tell you guys, this trade is not going to end well for the Dallas Mavericks. It's going to be a disaster. Maybe the Mavericks make a deep playoff run next year. Maybe they do it this year. I don't know. Maybe they're surprises. But if I had to make my bets, I don't think so. Could they be a top 4 team next year? Potentially. But we've seen this story before. We talk about, Anthony Davis was once a number one option. The farthest he got in the playoffs was the second round. Not to say he wasn't good, but we've also seen him with the Lakers where he's had a stretch of really good games. And what happens next? He either slows down or he gets hurt. It's really unfortunate. This is why you don't trade Luka Doncic. It was the worst trade we're ever going to see for a long time, I believe. You just don't make these moves and try to justify it. Now it looks really bad. And we are just one game into this process. And imagine tonight, if Luka Doncic goes out there and gets you 35, 12, and 7 on his opening. I don't care if it's against the Utah Jazz. I don't care. Right now, if Luka balls out, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Mavericks get into the playoffs and they play the Lakers in the first round. That's going to be box office. And let's say Luka dominates the Mavericks. Now, how are you going to feel? How are you going to look then? It's going to look even worse. Now, I understand the Lakers are undersized, so you should have the advantages there. But if Luka prevails in that series and he's the best player on the basketball court, this is going to look even worse. Now, I hope Anthony Davis is going to be okay because he was unbelievable in his debut. But I am concerned about durability. You have to be because Kyrie is getting older. You don't know how many years you have left for Kyrie. Anthony Davis, again, great player, but he gets hurt. These guys aren't your top 10 players. See, that's the problem with this trade is you traded away a top 5 player in the NBA for a guy who is top 10 at times, but not always. Inconsistent. Not hating on Anthony Davis. Those are just the facts. So we can look at this and go, okay, he'll be back and then Dallas should be okay. Will they? We shall see. The Western Conference is so competitive. We could see teams really rise up in the standings like the San Antonio Spurs. I know they've had a few tough losses, but Fox and Wemby getting their reps in, they have a second half run where they rise up in the Western Conference. And then Anthony Davis is just getting back. Fox and Wemby have more reps together. That just gives you another disadvantage. It's not good. That's why I think Anthony Davis and Kyrie need to play as many games as possible together this season. Because if you expect them to make a playoff run and compete in the West, those guys got to play together. And if they don't, and they run into, let's say, OKC in the first round, and AD and Kyrie play like 10 games together, they're going to get smoked. Again, Chemistry matters, and you got to build that by playing together. So we shall see how this all plays out, but it's just off to a horrendous start. You could try to justify it all you want. You could say, like, oh, well, Anthony Davis at one point was a number one option. That was in 2018. We're in 2025. And to me, he's not a, I know people want to make the argument he's a top 10 player. He's been playing like it, but at times, he's not always a top 10 player. We shall see how this continues for the Mavericks. I'm very curious to see how Kyrie plays going forward. And if the Mavericks can sustain, being competitive and winning basketball games, it's not going to be easy for them. So let's look at Dallas's schedule coming up. And if we're expecting Anthony Davis to miss like multiple weeks, we're probably thinking 3 to 4 at best. So you got the Kings tonight at home and Golden State at home on Wednesday and Miami at home. If you win these next 3 games, looking good. You win 2 out of 3, not bad. Got the Pelicans, you got to go to Golden State. Then you got to go to LA. And I don't know if AD's playing that night. It's going to be a nasty game for them. Then you got Charlotte, Milwaukee, Sacramento, go back to Milwaukee, Memphis at home, Phoenix at home. The schedule isn't too bad. So if they can handle business against Sacramento, obviously you got to deal with Golden State with Jimmy Butler and Curry. They looked really good in their debut. Then you got Miami at home. The Pels go to Golden State, go to LA. You got Charlotte. The schedule isn't terrible. But again, hopefully Kyrie stays healthy because we've seen his durability not always be great at times. That's not his fault. It's just he's an older player. He can only do so much. So I'm very curious to see what Jason Kidd's going to do. If they can survive the gauntlet, because again, you got to go to San Antonio on March 10th. I expect AD will be back by then, but will be enough down the stretch. And can Dallas get above the 8th seed? Now, we have seen the past last year with Klay Thompson struggle to shoot the ball. Now, he's shooting well from 3 this year, but he struggled to shoot from 3 before the All-Star break. Maybe the break will help him. Dallas is 8th right now. You're 2 games out of the 6th seed. If they can get to the 6th seed and Anthony Davis comes back, we shall see. Again, what I want to see is Lakers in the Mavericks in the first round. That would be a phenomenal series. Must-watch basketball. But I don't know. It's just, again, this trade doesn't look good for them. They're not off to a great start. And I hope the best for Anthony Davis. I just don't trust them in the long run. Because if your best 2 players can't stay healthy, because, again, they're older in age, they're going to be banged up, it's going to be hard to be in that top 4 spot. However, they do have depth. I will acknowledge that. They've got some good role players. And they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. So we shall see. I don't like how this is going to play out. It's not looking good so far. Try to tell you guys, Nico Harrison made a terrible move. This trade, when we look back on it, it's not going to age well. And I know there's been rumors about, well, Dallas did this because they might move their team to Las Vegas, even though the owner did come out and say today, we're not trying to make that move, but you never know. This is a trade where you set your franchise back 10 to 15 years. You just don't make that move and think it's okay. Now, I do hope Anthony Davis does get healthy. And if he plays at this level, then of course Dallas would be hard to beat. But again, durability is a big question mark with Kyrie, Anthony Davis. And when you have those question marks, it's hard to buy fully into the Mavericks. But we shall see what happens. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'd love to hear thoughts on the news of Anthony Davis getting injured. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.